This shows how pervasive an issue this is. Martin Savage, great to have you there on the scene. Certainly a lot to talk about here. Joining me now, CNN legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Sonny Hostin, CNN law enforcement analyst and a retired NYPD detective Harry Houck, and CNN legal analyst and criminal defense attorney Mark Erin. Sonny, I'd like to begin with you because you've been following this case from the very beginning, and all along you said that this case needed a special prosecutor. Did this decision not to indict surprise you?
Well, it certainly did surprise me. The bottom line is you have an officer who was let go from another police department just 2 years before this because they found that he was emotionally immature. They found that he had a dangerous loss of composure during firearms training, and most importantly, the supervisor said that he did not believe time nor training would be able to change or correct these deficiencies. And that was in 2012, and the Cleveland Police Department never even reviewed that personnel file. So there's just no question in my mind that this is an officer who there was certainly probable cause that he committed a crime here. There was a judge in the county that found the same. There have been experts that found the same. And so the fact, after all of that type of evidence, and the fact that this officer, who was clearly incompetent, shot Tamir Rice 2 seconds after getting out of his police cruiser, that tells me that given all that evidence, when Prosecutor McGinty says that he recommended that no charges be filed, this necessitates and screams out for a special prosecutor, someone that is unbiased and someone that is looking for prosecution. Let's be clear, and Mark Garagos, I think, will agree with me. Prosecutors control the grand jury. Prosecutors control the flow of information. Who gets in front of the grand jury? Which evidence is presented? If you want an indictment, you get an indictment as a prosecutor. This prosecutor didn't want an indictment.
Mark, let me ask you this.
That's not true at all, and you know it's
but Mark,
did you always
Harry,
true.
Harry, in fairness, before I come to you, Mark, I do want to ask you a question as a defense attorney. There have been a lot of cases like this, and I don't want them to merge together because the circumstances are all different, and we don't want to make that mistake. But just for my sake, and I think for the sake of our viewers, what exactly is the legal standard? What would a prosecutor or a grand jury have to prove that a police officer used force unreasonably? Because that was a big judgment in this case. Would a reasonable police officer have made the same judgment? They decided yes, based on mistaking, for instance, the gun for being a real gun. What standard, is there a standard, an identifiable standard that prosecutors have to reach to get charges against a police officer?
Look, I jokingly say, and it's not too far from the truth, that the standard for probable cause has devolved into, is the defendant breathing? Because probable cause is the lowest standard that we have in the law. So and Sonny is absolutely correct, and I know we don't often agree, but if that prosecutor had wanted an indictment, that prosecutor would have had an indictment. Tamir Rice's mother and the statement that was read was absolutely true. This Cuyahoga County prosecutor acted like the defense lawyer. He did what the defense lawyer did. He went out and hired experts who said that the officer acted reasonably. He allowed, if you believe what's being reported, the officers to come in and read statements and not be cross-examined. I mean, that's unheard of. And so when you have a prosecutor who wants to go through basically what is a dog and pony show and be able to wash his hands of it and say, hey, I didn't do it, the grand jury didn't indict, that is a complete farce. And that's why people are angry. In fact, in California, we've just passed a law that in circumstances like this, you can't go to a grand jury because it's a ruse. Grand jury originally was supposed to be a bulwark against abuse by prosecutors. It's now become a handmaiden for the prosecutors.
Hey, Harry, I know you have thoughts on this. You're a former police officer. You look at the circumstances of this case. Did officers have a choice but to shoot?
No, they didn't have a choice.
Come on, Harry. Shot him in 2 seconds.
I've been talking about...
Shot him in 2 seconds.
Please let me talk. Please. Are you going to talk about the whole show? I'm not going to be able to say anything. But anyway, as soon as the officers got there, and I had said this in the past, that I think maybe their tactics were bad. They should not have pulled up very close to him. But the fact is, and the FBI reviewed the video also, when the officer got out of that car, Tamir Rice was going for something in his waistband, which was that gun, which looked exactly like a gun, and the police officer has only one thing to do. He has to fire his weapon to be able to save his life. Now, you know, we don't have crystal balls as police officers, so when we're trying to get to a scene where something is going on, all right, that whether or not that weapon is a real weapon
Give him a
or
chance
not.
to finish, and then I'll
All right,
come
so
to
the
you, Mark.
fact is that look just like. Oh,
Mark, go ahead for a
am I
moment.
going to be allowed to talk here at all?
No, you are for sure, Harry.
I want you to understand.
You made your point. Let's give Mark a quick response, and we'll give you a chance.
Harry, I would agree with you that maybe beyond a reasonable doubt he wouldn't have been convicted. But there are defenses. But that doesn't excuse this complete farce of saying there wasn't probable cause. Even you, Harry, probably the most ardent supporter for law enforcement, can see that the tactics were lacking. There's no way you can justify rolling up on the scene and within 2 seconds shooting.
Harry, let me ask you to answer that.
Well, Mark, you know,
The speed, Harry, if you could answer the
fact is,
speed.
it doesn't matter.
What?
2 seconds?
Yes,
The fact is that it doesn't matter. 2 seconds. Well, how long is it going to take for me to get killed? The fact is that if that gun was a real gun and he had waited 2 or 3 more seconds, we'd be talking about a dead police officer. Except we don't know that. All right. The fact is that officer did not know that that was a fake gun. As far as he was concerned, that was a real gun, and that's why it wasn't indicted, and that's why the FBI is going to clear him also if there's a civil rights violation.
Mark, let's give Sonny, we're running out of time. Sonny, I just want to give you a quick moment for a quick thought before we go away.
Look, the bottom line is the actions of the dispatcher should be looked at. The shooting itself needs to be looked at. The response afterwards, let's remember that the officers did provide first aid because they had no training. This is an untrained, incompetent police officer that tactically decided to put himself in harm's way, to rush up near this person that he thought was armed, get out of the car and shoot him in 2 seconds. And by the way, he claimed that he gave Tamir Rice through repeated commands to drop the gun, repeated commands to do this, to do that, but he shot him in 2 seconds. Tell me how that makes sense, Harry. How do you ask somebody to comply with an order but not give them the opportunity to comply?
Cut behind your desk. Here's a police officer who was thinking in his mind that he might have been killed and somebody was drawing a weapon on him. He wants to go home to his family like everybody else.
Harry, Sonny, Mark, we're gonna have to leave it there. We're gonna have to leave it there. This is, listen, what we're hearing right now, and we had it happen before. This is a debate happening in communities around the country right now, and I appreciate you all coming at it with passion. I do. Sonny Hassan, Harry Houck, Mark Garagos, you know what you're talking about. Just ahead.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year as well. Iraqi troops celebrating the retaking of a key city near Baghdad from ISIS.